Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the November 2018 meeting of the West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency. I ask you to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business is approval of the agenda.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
And I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Second item, public comment on matters not on the agenda. Is there any member from the public that wishes to speak on matters? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 3, approval of the October 18 meeting minutes.
I'll move approval of those minutes.
And I will second those. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Review of the monthly year-to-date.
All right, good morning, members of the board. I'll be reporting out instead of Mark Zolo today. And I'm going to report out on a summary of the revenue expenses for the month of September. First, we're going to start with Fund 870. The starting balance was approximately $7.7 million. There was no revenue this month for 870, and the expenses were about $118,000. Majority of the expenses were contributions to other agencies regarding taxes and assessments. The ending cash position for Fund 870 was $7.6 million. The starting balance for Fund 871 was a negative $10.1 million. We received about $115,000 from other state grants. Expenses were $5.7 million. There were significant costs regarding the Southport Levee Improvement Project, and that totaled about $5.2 million, and $458,000 went to the deep water ship channel repair. The ending position for Fund 871 was negative $15.7 million. To look at the year-to-date position, along with the $35 million advanced state funding, the combined cash position for 870 and 871 was $27.1 million. And that concludes my report.
Any questions? When do the state advance funds get brought into those accounts as far as the
Good morning,
accounting?
Mr. Chair. The state staff are working on the statement of cost right now. We had some true up on previous quarters, and so we wanted to hammer those down and kind of carve them into stone. And so they're working on 3 quarters right now, and we'll be presenting the next quarter to them, if not tomorrow, early next week. So sometime in the near future, they'll get back to us with letters, and we'll use those letters to document that we've earned that advanced fund revenue, and you'll see it shift over. So the overall cash position of the agency will say about the same as you see it going right now, okay. But you'll see a big move from the state advance fund into 871.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Consent agenda.
I'd like to pull item 6 just for some comments.
Okay. Do you want to just make the comments, or should we pull it?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, just to set it aside, and then we can.
So with that,
Okay, thanks.
go ahead.
We've discussed having more support, doing lobbying for the gaining the federal funds for this project, and I'm really supportive of this. I'd like to, though, request, without having it cost too much, that we get updates regularly so that we know the work that's being done. That's been something that we have, again, talked about at this meeting. So while we're spending the extra, because we've tried so many different ways, this is a new tool or an additional support, but I'd like to see what's happening there. I don't want to get all the secrets of the lobbyists, but just to know that the work's being done. I think that's our due diligence, and so I just would request that.
I concur.
Okay.
I think this is a proper way to do this, bringing on the additional resources in DC to have them report and operate directly with WSAFCA and with you, Greg. So we're funding this, I guess, for the next 6 months, and then we'll be looking as to budgeting going forward for 1920, right?
Yeah, the commitment that you're making today is for 1 year,
Yes.
and
We're
we're
allocating
asking for
funds.
the budget adjustment for the balance of the fiscal year, and
Right.
we'll budget appropriately in the next fiscal year.
Okay. Very good. Any other consent items, comments on? Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion for, well, I'll make the motion for approval of the consent agenda.
And I'll second that.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, motion carries. So we're on to the Southport project update.
Good morning, Chair Ramos, members of the board. I'm here for the November 2018 update regarding the Southport levee improvement project. Is my comment? Do I need it? All right. I will go ahead and click on to the next slide, give you a brief overview of where we're at right now and where we intend to be over the next 4 weeks. Oop. Here we go. So in the November-December timeframe, so starting, of course, this month and into next month, we're really finishing up some of the outstanding items that are on there, as well as starting to develop and also address some of the punch list items. More detailed breakdown. Right now, if you drive down Village Parkway between Linden and Davis, you'll see a lot of earthwork going around. That's the seepage berm that we're currently constructing in segments E and F. All other major earthwork's been complete, so this is really the last bit of heavy earth moving that you'll see for the remainder of the project. We're also going throughout and along the setback levee slopes as well as the offset area, doing some finish grading, hydro seeding, those setback levee embankments, really stabilizing those for the upcoming winter and to get vegetation starting to grow on those. We're completing the offset area seeding and stabilization. That includes the north and south offset area, with Bees Lake being kind of the delineating feature in that. Drill seeding. The rock, for the most part, has been placed at all of our inlet outlets, as well as the vegetated netting and jute netting and coir fabric. So if you drive out there to see some of the photos, some of the changes in the topography and the coloring is based on that. We've got some finished rock placement we're doing at the two inlets, our northernmost inlet outlet as well as our southernmost. We've got some post and cable and gate installation going along the perimeter of the project, as well as at all the entrances that the O&M folks at RD 900 will use to access, so that'll continue to go on. It started a few weeks back, but it'll continue over the next few weeks and hopefully get wrapped up here in the not-too-distant future. We're coordinating with Reclamation District staff to ensure that any adjustments that need to be made out there in the field are being taken into consideration and being done with that work as it's currently going. We're also completing the AB surface on the patrol roads, both the top of the levee and at the base. So we've got the O&M at the toe, which is also the project limits, as well as up on top, and then a few other features. So we've got some work that's, for the majority, has already been completed, but we do have a few areas we're cleaning up and addressing over the next week or two. We're also completing erosion repair work in segments C and G. You'll probably see the mast of some of those cranes that are out there as you're driving up and down Village Parkway. They're placing tow rock, just big stone sea rock in those particular areas. And we're also establishing some vegetation, some siltation trenches, trees, shrubs, things of that nature in those erosion repair areas as well. That's all part of the features that are going into that. Roadway paving was completed last week. Both the entrances to the marinas have been paved, really the last outstanding items we had. Cul-de-sacs were done previous to that. So for the most part, we've got just some striping and some signage that'll go up over the next week or two. And then all the access points will be opened up for public traffic. And we'll continue to coordinate with city staff to ensure that proper notices and any issues that might arise as part of the punch list get addressed before we wrap the project up. We've got ongoing survey work, so as portions of the areas are completed, we've got surveyors out there to certify elevations are at the correct locations, as well as making sure all the features are being installed where they need to be. I mentioned before the review and the completing of the punch list items. We had a walkthrough earlier this week with some of our project stakeholders, DWR Central Valley, Army Corps of Engineers, Reclamation District folk, started at Sherwood Harbor and made our way south to identify some items that still needed to be addressed. So that list has been developed. We'll continue to work on that. And once they get closer to completing the areas to the north, we'll do a similar type walkthrough with those folks and make sure that we're getting everybody's input before we do notice of completion and finish up the project. So I'll cycle through some pictures and kind of show you where we're currently at. This is segment A, of course, the southernmost reach. You'll see some finished slope work in this particular area. So levee crown's been established with AB. We've got the hydroseeding and stabilization along those slopes. There's cleanup work, of course, debris, some finished grading items, cleaning up the AB, things of that nature. But for the most part, the southern portion is the furthest along towards completion of everything else. Moving north. Come on. There we go. Oh, did I go too far? Seems to be taking time to think. This one right here, B2, right? Okay. So segment B2, where we go from our setback to our fix in place, you'll see the erosion, not the erosion, but the inlet outlet, our southernmost one right there, the southwest inlet outlet. That work was completed. You'll see kind of the rock colors on both sides, as well as along the embankment. The roadway, for the most part, on top of the AB has been completed, as well as the roadway down below. Post and cable fence is currently being installed in this area, and same thing here where we have the additional post and cable fence, but stabilization that's occurring throughout this area. You'll see kind of the changes in the coloring in the offset area, difference between the coir fabric and the jute netting. We also have some vegetation that's already been established in this area. It's one of the first areas that got seeded, so which is why you see some more development as far as grassy areas than you do throughout. But hopefully with a little bit more moisture in the air and continue to, as we get into the wet season, that'll continue to grow and develop and start stabilizing some of our looser areas. Here we travel just a little bit north to the Oak Hall Bend area. There's our second inlet outlet right there, our southeast breach. This is also the location where we're doing also some stabilization in the erosion site C area. Actually, to the top left is where that's kind of occurring. We're also continuing to do finish work down along here. Some of the borrow areas are being restored. That's primarily happening in A1 and A4. And we'll continue to do that as we continue to clean up the project and go from there. Segment D, this picture primarily shows the offset area A4 being restored, but also we have material deliveries continuing to happen out here for AB installation, as well as some of the rock being placed as well. So that's ongoing, and on the right-hand side, you'll just see more of the setback levee being installed and established. The Davis Road segment, which you kind of see in the top right-hand corner as well, has all been graded out, so the entire grading area of the south offset area has been completed, and stabilization for the most part is underway. Here we go a little bit north of that. You can see the marinas in the background as well. Here is the north end of the south offset area, and also the Sherwood entrance. Like I mentioned before, this is now paved. We'll be doing striping later on this week and some signage installation. And then that entire loop, which will be called Chicory Loop, will be open to the public and accessible for the marinas as well as anybody else that wants to get up to the top there. Here's just a shot of Bees Lake and kind of the setback levee in that area. And the only really piece of remnant levee in its original condition, the old South River Road in the foreground as well. Our connections to Village Parkway up there. Yacht Club is just beyond the tree line, but making progress there and completing that work. And like I said, once we get a little bit closer to completion of that, we'll do the walkthrough and continue to do punch list items associated with that work. Segment F, over in the north offset area. Here's just a picture of the setback levee. Some seepage berm that's still continuing to go on in this particular area. The cell tower relocation, you'll see right there kind of in the mid-picture. Just south of that is where the last piece of seepage berm's being installed, and then of course right in front of the marinas in that segment as well. So that'll be ongoing over the next few weeks. And there's our third inlet outlet at the north end. As you can see, they got some equipment in there doing most of the stabilization work, laying down some of the amended topsoil, some of the netting and whatnot. That's actually been moving along really well, and if not to be completed this week, sometime the following week, and then continue with stabilization in that area. And here's segment G. There's our erosion repair up in site G, so that's what that barge is working on in that particular area. And then we've finished graded throughout G. There is some additional cleanup work that needs to be done, but they're also placing rock and AB in that area as well to complete that work. Here's the finished product, well, not quite finished product, but the paved area at least for Sherwood Harbor. Yacht Club is similar, so they've got shoulder backing since this picture was taken. That's been installed, and like I mentioned, some striping and signage that'll go in end of this week and into next. And that's all I have for you. Any questions?
Any questions? I just got the section of South River Road, was that part of the project to repave that, or?
No, that's it. We've got portions connecting to the marinas.
Yeah.
We've done some work on, but the condition of South River Road between the marinas still needs to be addressed, and it's not part of our project.
Okay.
So there's some areas that they need to repair due to construction damage that was caused, but it's fairly minor compared to the work that
The
needs to be
overall.
done to reestablish that
Yeah.
road, yeah.
It's pretty tremendous to see the progress from
Oh,
the
yeah.
beginning to now. Is this up on our website for folks? I know people are still really interested in the project and
Yeah,
the community.
so we've had people request using some of the photos for presentations or whatnot that they have. So I've got everything updated on the
Great.
Flickr website up through October. So all the really cool images with the sky high and the drone stuff's already on there. We do have the videos, of course, that are up there as well that we produced in conjunction with the city. And then we've also updated, I think as of last month, the project description. So once we go ahead and start getting to the end of the project, we'll update that again and
Great.
kind of give a summary, if you will, of kind of 2017 work, 2018 work, and just have it there available for the website. I know some of the students as well at some of the schools have been talking about it, so it'll be nice, a resource for teachers.
Yeah.
If they wanted to kind of just, hey, this is what's going on in your neighborhood, use that as well.
Thanks.
Well, please pass on our appreciation to the contractor. It's been a challenging job, especially at the start, but it seems like this year they stepped up and they got the job done. And also congratulations to yourself and the rest of our engineering staff and construction staff out there. You know, it's fantastic that we basically have this thing done in year 2, and we didn't have to, you know, go through some additional who knows what.
Yeah,
If
no,
if we hadn't. So it's great news, and, you know, congratulations.
Yeah, no, and it's been a great effort by the entire CM team, whether it's our consultants, whether it's the reclamation district, all of our staff. It was a challenging project, but at the same time, I think, like I said, we're at a point where we're happy with kind of where we're at with construction, and then, you know, as project close out and everything else goes, we'll continue to update folks on how that progresses. But a large project like this, the paperwork that follows up afterwards takes quite a while, so.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I think we're in a good spot.
And it's going to free up resources for us to continue on, so.
Yeah, ready for the next one.
Yep, very good.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Fabian, WSAFCA project report.
Thank you, Chair Ramos, members of the board. I'll just go over a few highlights from the monthly report. On the real estate services, as noted in the report, we have an agreement with the last parcel that remained under eminent domain, so that was good news. And then also, Paul is now doing some work with MTCO and DWR's cadastral group to kind of set the stage for defining all of the rights post-project, so we can get everything lined up. I'm trying to learn from some of the lessons that Mark is going through in the north area, trying to do that project closeout. Seems to be kind of a chasing your tail sometimes, but I think the advanced work and kind of setting the stage is a really good approach, and the team has had good luck with DWR in setting up his expectations, so hopefully that goes smooth. Much bigger lift with Southport than there is with the north area closeout. On the environmental services, in relation to the Time Oil site, the report was completed and uploaded to the Water Board's GeoTracker website, so now Paul is going through developing all of the documents needed to submit for reimbursement under the grant. So hopefully that gets wrapped up here in the next 30 days or so, and we can get our reimbursement. So on one of the environmental support services in relation to air quality impacts. We're still doing the analysis to calculate all of the emissions that were estimated for the construction activities. We are likely going to exceed our limit, the 25-ton limit. How much, as of right now, we don't know, but there will be some additional costs for mitigation. It's quite expensive. So we'll keep the board updated as we learn more, let you know what those impacts are.
I can't breathe outside, but we got to pay more money.
With the federal project, so right now I'm checking daily the Corps' website for budget to see if the work plan comes out. I think the 60 days is up November 21st, somewhere in there. So perhaps the end of this week, perhaps before or right after Thanksgiving. Anyways, I'm obviously waiting with bated breath to see what we can see see if we receive funding, the PED funding in the work plan. So I have no intel from anybody back in DC on any firm date or any sneak peek, but I'm checking. Also, back last month, the 19th, we had a visit by the new ASA, R.D. James. The visit went really well. The last stop on his tour, if you will, of the California in this region was the Southport project. And he, along with other folks who hadn't been out on our project site, it was their first time, were very impressed with the size of the project and what we're creating in terms of the setback levee and the offset areas and the future habitat and the investment in the federal project. And very proud of the work that WSAFCA is doing advancing the federal project. There was a lot of recognition, or at least recognition, that we were moving the project forward in the absence of federal funding, and the message that we need federal funding to keep pace with the other projects in the region that now are fully funded. The message was repeated several times, and I think it was received. One comment from the ASA, which I think we heard feedback from the mayor's trip early October, and then also from R.D. James when he was out here, is there's no BCR requirement for the PED funding, but not being at 2.5 could present some challenges for construction funding. That's not lost on us. We think we have a good story to tell that may qualify us for funding absent a 2.5 BCR, but we're also doing some work to see how we may be able to make some improvements to the BCR through additional investigation to help further define project costs. Also, the Corps right now is adopting and implementing a new project delivery schedule or process to deliver all these supplemental projects within 5 years. And that, according to folks at the district, is their new project delivery model. They're not going to go back to the way things were. So taking them at their word, that means that the WSAC project should also be a 5-year delivery model. And I will just say that if we change our project from 7 years to 5 years in the duration, our BCR is 2.6. So we're going to have some conversations with the Corps over the next several months. It's part of our ongoing dialogue with them anyways, but we're going to be planning our next update to the project metrics, cost, schedule, and working with the district staff to see what we need to do other than just magically adjusting the schedule to get us a BCR that is at 2.5 or above. I think from strictly a cost perspective, reducing costs, we would need to reduce the overall federal project by about $150 million. If we hold everything else the same, would also produce a BCR of 2.5. So somewhere between $150 million in reduction in costs and or a shrinking of the schedule gets us there. And how what the final analysis that can be supported by division at headquarters, we'll have to wait and see. But we're continuing with that work.
Greg, do you know these the supplemental project, projects that received supplemental funding, were they all over 2.5?
No, they
Okay.
were not all over 2.5.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the 2.5 was not a consideration at all.
I understand that, but it's it's a little ironic.
Certainly, the biggest one, the WSAFCA project, that received the 1.6, of the 1.8 billion that came to this region, 1.6 was for them. They had a BCR greater than 2.5, but the others did not, and the rest of California, as far as I know, also did not have the 2.5.
Okay.
All right, on the Deepwater Ship Channel Drainage Project, that project is essentially complete, and they're going through project closeout, and through the board's action today, we also received the monetary contribution from the city, and $1 million, which is fantastic. Every little bit helps. And I think then lastly, just wanted to report out, I think both of the board members that are here today were at the Flood Preparedness Week event. It's really a nice, this is, I think, our 6th year partnering with the school district for these types of events. We see that we're going to be doing this every year. We had a good turnout from our representatives with the Corps and DWR, as well as this board, the city as well. I think next year we're looking at trying to incorporate some level of participation by the high school, whether they can do articles in their journalism class, or whether they can even maybe do some public speaking and speak to their younger peers at the school, and kind of maybe weave some of that in with the event. It's been a little tough sometimes getting the high school focused on these extracurricular activities, but to the extent that they can get some of their required public engagement work that they need for graduation, maybe this is an avenue that they can use, and we can entice them to participate. So we'll see how that goes. I think that about does it. And, one other thing to note on the future items. The date that has been set now for the Yolo Bypass Cash SHLU Partnership meeting is now December 6th. And it's over at the Downey Brand office on K Street Mall. And other than that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Questions? No? Thank you very much. Item 10, director's comments. Any? I just got a short one, and I guess I could have brought it up under item 5 of the consent, and that's just the in lieu fee contribution to WSAFCA. And we appreciate the contribution and to be able to bring into the federal program. And I would just encourage the city to continue to protect those funds. You know, when it was announced at the last meeting that the council did it, I was able to go back and watch the council meeting, and their mayor made a point that the priority is to fund the federal project, and I hope they will keep that in mind as those in lieu fees are brought in. We see increased development in town, and where it was not maybe a major source of funding, it may be over the next few years, and we need to be able to bring those monies in when needed. So, with that, we're adjourned.